China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang has been removed from office. Mr. Qin, which we're about to see meeting with Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State of the United States, earlier this year, has been absent from public duties for more than a month. Chinese state media made the announcement on Tuesday evening, saying that he'd been replaced by his predecessor in the role, the Communist Party's Foreign Affairs Chief, Wang Yi. The announcement gave no reason for Mr. Qin's removal. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Ali Wine, a senior analyst with the Eurasia Group's global macro geopolitics practice. He focuses on U.S.-China relations. Mr. Wine, welcome. So Qin is out, and all trace of him is slowly being removed from the Foreign Ministry website. Is this a political purge?
There's a lot of speculation. There are a lot of rumors swirling around the foreign minister. But what we do know, as you said, as we speak in real time, images of Qin Gang are being removed from the ministry's website. References to his previous diplomatic activities are being scrubbed from the ministry's website. So it certainly suggests that there's some political infighting going on.
So Qin was seen by many as a rising star, and he didn't really mince his words specifically, when talking about China's relations with the West. So in kicking him out, did President Xi remove a threat to his own power?
Well, again, there are a lot of speculations. One rumor, or one, I shouldn't say a rumor, one assertion that's been made is that the speed of Qin Gang's ascent within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs rankles some of his more senior colleagues. And certainly there were personal frictions between Wang Yi and Qin Gang. So again, I think some personal animus at work, some political motivations at work. But now with Wang Yi heading up not only the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also the Central Foreign Affairs Commission, Wang Yi now is going to be overseeing not only the substance of foreign policy, but also its implementation. I think that Wang Yi is a much better known entity. Diplomatically, I think that he'll also be a more challenging interlocutor for the United States. You mentioned in your remarks the meeting between the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and his recent visits to Beijing. And it's noticeable that his meetings with Qin Gang were a little bit warmer than his meetings with Wang Yi. So Wang Yi, he's a more well-known entity, a more prominent entity, but potentially also a more challenging interlocutor for the United States. Mm-hmm.
It has been a busy time for Chinese diplomacy with several visits recently from U.S. officials. How will this change at the top impact relations now, you think?
I don't think that this personnel change is going to have a significant impact on U.S.-China relations. I think that the relationship broadly has been competitive. It will remain competitive in a range of domains. I think what we might see is perhaps a little bit more of the return to China's assertive diplomacy. Wang Yi is known sometimes colloquially for so-called wolf warrior diplomacy, a more assertive, perhaps even abrasive style of diplomacy. We've seen that on display in his interactions with U.S. counterparts, and I think that we might see a return to that type of style of diplomacy, not only in dealing with the United States, but with the West more broadly.
So you don't think that the communication between the two superpowers is going to improve with this change at the top?
I don't think that it will improve. I think it's going to remain contentious. But what I will say is that, Wang Yi, even if he's a more challenging interlocutor, he's also a much better known interlocutor. And many of the current officials, top-level officials in the national security and foreign policy establishment in the United States have interacted with Wang Yi regularly in recent years. Keep in mind that Wang Yi, before resuming his position as foreign minister, he had served in that capacity between 2013 and 2022. So he's a well-known entity, so expect strained communication, but perhaps more foreign policy continuity coming from China.
Let's talk continuity, because it's something that that President Xi certainly values and something that he wants to project towards the outside. Now, getting rid of Qin Gang after less than a year in the post, after him being, missing basically for about a month, what does that say about the inner workings of the palace? What's happening there?
Well, exactly as you said, those inner workings, they have been mysterious for a long time to the outside world. And I think that with Xi Jinping's centralization of power, his increasing centralization of power, those inner workings are becoming yet more mysterious to outside observers. China gave no official reason for Qin Gang's departure. There are any number of rumors swirling around the reasons for his a departure. So I think that what we see is kind of a shroud of mystery around the inner workings of China's domestic governance, China's political system, and again, a growing concentration of authority, not only in Xi Jinping, but now certainly much more of a concentration of foreign policy authority in Wang Yi.
Ali Wine with the Eurasia Group in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's try to get some clarity here and bring in Moritz Rudolph. He's a scholar at Yale Law School's China Center. Welcome to the day. Good to see you. Now, Qin Gang, China's now former top diplomat, was known to sometimes be quite undiplomatic. Is his ouster a political purge?
Well, we do not know. This is one of the problems when you're analyzing China and the Chinese political apparatus. You don't get an explanation when something as crucial as a replacement for a foreign minister occurs. And this is the second largest and most powerful country in the world. So there are indications that it was a purge and there are indications that it was not a purge. One of the things that is remarkable is that from the Chinese website of from the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, all the references to Qin Gang have been erased. And so you cannot find him, you cannot search him on the website anymore. But at the same point of time, like on the State Council, because he remains a member of the State Council, you can still search him. They have updated his profile, and there he still has like his more like the higher ranking position of being a state councillor, but there he's no longer listed as the Chinese foreign minister.
Qin rose to diplomatic stardom quite fast. He was ambassador to the U.S., then foreign minister. Do you think, whatever may be behind this, will this demotion be the end of the road for him?
Well, the same thing, like we do not know yet, but there are definitely signs that his rise to power within the Chinese diplomatic apparatus, this has been really quick, remarkably quick. And there were some rumors, of course, about saying that this he could have had like some kind of enemies within the system. But like the key rumor that has been spreading around over Chinese social media for the past couple of weeks is an alleged affair with a Chinese journalist, with some pictures being leaked. And if this were truly the case, and if an investigation were to be launched and concluded, then in that case, it would be really difficult for Qin Gang to make a comeback. If it is a health issue, then it could be possible for him to reemerge. But at this point, we simply do not know whether he is indeed really sick or whether he is at this point right now being investigated and held somewhere. This is China, how we are looking at it, but we just do not know for sure.
Yeah. Let's leave the realm of speculation then, somewhat at least, and look at what may lie ahead, because Wang Yi, the now new foreign minister, is a known figure. What do you think the policy consequences of this shakeup are going to be?
Well, I think for Wang Yi, he has been the key foreign policy figure in China for over a decade. So he's heading the Chinese Foreign Affairs Commission, which is a role which is more important than the role of the foreign minister. So in the end, like the guidelines, the direction of Chinese foreign policy, the face for that has been Wang Yi, and now it will continue to be Wang Yi, but we will have two positions that he's holding. So also the Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs. But since Wang Yi is already quite old, this appears to be just like a temporary situation. So we can expect for a replacement for now Wang Yi, the foreign minister, in the months ahead. But for the general direction of Chinese foreign policy, Wang Yi is the most important face in that regard. And there, I think we cannot expect that many changes.
Yeah.
I think for the Chinese side, where it's like more problematic is the PRC wants to project the image of being a well-run machine.
Exactly.
And no matter what the reasons are behind the absence of Qin Gang, this has not been handled in a really professional or sophisticated way, really contrary to what China wants to promote and the image China wants to project to the outside world, especially in the realm of diplomacy.
Yeah. And briefly, kind of latching on to what you just said, how much of a headache do you think all of this is behind the scenes for Xi Jinping?
Well, I think every single thing, when you have like speculations, rumors, when you have like this kind of chaos or potential chaos, this is some kind of headache, because for the Chinese side, it is always easier to project this, or it's better to project this different image. But so I think it is some kind of a headache, but how much of a headache it is with like Wang Yi now filling in for Qin Gang, he is already like the more important figure. I would say it's not too much of a headache, but at least this is like a nuisance for within the Chinese system at this point.
And we still don't know where the former foreign minister is. That was Moaz Rudolph of the China Center at Yale Law School. Thank you so much.